But again, when we get into the distinction between advertising and, for example, in public relations, it's the sponsor identified that might be the distinction, is you may have to pay for it, but when you get public relations exposure, you're not necessarily identified as the source of the message, which is really good. So what do we do advertising for? Well, to sell stuff. And there's all kinds of ways that we can sell stuff with advertising. Remember, the goals of communication are inform, persuade, remind, and build relationships. So we call pioneer advertising. This is where we're developing primary demand. The goal is just to explain the benefit that my offering has, regardless of what other competitors are in the market, because there aren't competitors in the market. And obviously the goal there would be to inform. And then we have comparative advertising, which it's interesting in my lifetime when I was your age. When I was your age, we had to ride a horse 8 ways to school. They weren't allowed to do comparative advertising. You weren't allowed to mention a sponsor's name because that might have been considered slander. And they recently, that's maybe in some of these vintage commercials, you'll see brand X or brand Y, and everybody knows that brand X was Ford, and everybody knows that brand Y was Deft. But we had to use those because we weren't allowed to make direct comparisons. Well, now we are. You can make direct comparisons. And the goal of those is to, during the growth phase, differentiate, identify our market segment, and satisfy their needs. And then reminder advertising after the sale. Remember, build a relationship. Remember how good it is that you bought the product. We talked about buyer's remorse, right? Cognitive dissonance, especially in situations where there's a likelihood of buyer's remorse. Reminder advertising afterwards helps remind people that, yes, you made the right decision. Even though you really wanted to drive that Jaguar, the Honda was right for you. And then, in addition to products, we also advertise ideas. Institutional ads are promoting a business or an organization. Sometimes for investor relations, just to make people feel good about investing in the company, or in the case of Generation X, getting people excited about working for the company, just showing that we're doing good work on the planet. It's also for damage control. I shouldn't say this, and I won't. Yes, I will. I always get a kick out of PG&E is doing such a good job of showing how much we all love the work that we do, and how much we love our customers, and we don't hardly blow them up at all anymore. Because safety is our major concern. But again, all of this, the negative publicity associated with the San Bruno explosion, in response to that, they're working to create a perception that we are a really good company, and that was just a weird one-off mistake. Advocacy advertising, this is where you're trying to get people to think the way that you want to think. Normally you have a point of view, and you want to show everybody that your point of view is correct. Excuse me. This is a situation where in the world of advertising, there's kind of a symbiotic relationship between companies and the people that do the work. I've heard lots of folks talk about working on client side, which means that you're working for the manufacturer, or agency side, which means you're working for the agency. But in many situations, your business will not do all of its advertising, but your business will work with a third-party agency to do all or some of the advertising for you. And it's kind of an interesting situation. Excuse me. Which way's forward? This was backwards? Okay. There's two kinds of agencies you work with. The traditional model, which is going by the wayside, is the full-service agency. If you've ever seen the television series Mad Men, that is a full-service advertising agency. Hang on. Okay. Am I back live? There we go. So the good news is a full-service agency, in effect, works as the advertising department for your company. The advantage is that because they work with other companies than just your company, they can bring in creative ideas. They might have a breadth of experience. that you wouldn't get for somebody who was just working for yourself. And the other good news is they can be fired if you don't like what they're doing. Whereas with an in-house agency, if you're not satisfied with the work, then you've got the whole issue of employee termination contracts, which is an issue for it. The traditional model of advertising, and this is what has gone by the wayside in most cases, again, in the Mad Men era, is when you work with a full-service agency, they did the creative work for free. And the way they got paid is they were paid a commission on the media buy. And you'll even see today when the advertising trades talk about accounts, they'll talk about a $100,000 account or $1 million account or a multi-million-dollar account. That's usually related to the media buy that's associated with that. And if you're doing $1 million worth of media, then a 15% commission allows you to do the creative work as well as possibly to generate a profit for the agency. And because with the growth of digital advertising where access to the media is essentially free, you can't charge a commission on nothing. So agencies are going more to a fee-for-service model where you pay for the creative work as well as pay for access to the audience, depending on which channel you might choose to reach your audience. Another kind of agency is limited service agency. Again, this is like a subcontractor. They will do one or more of the services that you need to do in order to manage your communications, but they're not going to be able to do everything for you. And a lot of times they will be subcontracted by, if you're working with a full service agency, the full service agency will handle the subcontracts for the limited service agencies you want to work with. So you might have somebody working, an agency working search engine marketing or search engine optimization, and another agency working with you on a print campaign.